This episode of The Breakfast Dish is brought to you by the Calgary Foundation, proudly supporting community needs for 65 years.
And supporting The Breakfast Dish for about 9 months. Whether it was proudly, I don't know. We said a lot of weird stuff.
I think they're proud.
I hope so.
We only mentioned cocaine once. When you make a gift to the Calgary Foundation, it's a gift that keeps on giving. The Foundation's knowledgeable staff will provide advice on the community's most pressing needs, keeping your interests at heart and helping you give back in a way that is meaningful for you.
Do you have another gift, like off the top of your head, that also keeps on giving?
Yes, Neil Diamond albums.
Oh, God.
Your contributions are invested in an endowment fund that provides a permanent source of funding, allowing you to make an impact now and forever.
There you go. People want to leave a legacy. This is how you do it.
If you're a professional advisor creating a giving plan for a client or a donor wanting to give back to the community, discover a wealth of resources at calgaryfoundation.org to learn more, or check out Calgary Foundation's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube channel.
Hey, Calgary Foundation, toss us a follow. Peace sign.
I think I'm going to give some money to them instead of you.
I don't deserve it.
Tell me your dreams over bacon and eggs. We'll share a laugh and a story and even a wish on the breakfast dish. Bop, 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 bop.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 40 of The Breakfast Dish. This podcast hosted by the mum and son duo, Karen Johnson-Diamond and Griffin Cork. I'm the mum. He's the son.
I'm also the host of our new headphone fashion show. It's called The Breakfast Dish, but instead we're going to take a whole new... Tell them what we used to do on The Breakfast Dish, Karen.
Oh, what, you mean the breakfast series used to be?
No, on this podcast, because I'm going to try to, change the format. On 40th episode, we're going to switch it up.
Sure, okay. I'm sure our guests will be really glad to hear that right now, seconds before we introduce them.
Yeah, they found out at the same time as my co-host.
What happens here on The Breakfast Dish, or what has happened, is that we've spent the last 39 episodes amplifying and talking about any online art that is happening in Alberta during the stay away from each other times. So we can't go live, we can't go see it in person, but so much of it is available audio or social distanced in a park somewhere or over your computer screen. And we just want you to know about it.
With your hands right now. You're holding a 2 OK sign.
Mommy still counts with her fingers, boy.
I thought you were going to go into devil horns for a second.
So that's what normally happens. You and I normally talk to guests about any art that they're doing in the digital realm. What are we doing now, son of mine?
I've come here to break down barriers. I've come to revolutionize the podcast industry. I'm really going to flip it on its head. And as I've said before, this is a headphone fashion show. So, Karen, why don't you audio model your headphones. Describe, video, model your headphones. We found it, and go.
Thank you. Karen Johnson-Diamond is wearing blue Bluetooth headphones, large can size on the sides of her heads, adjustable strap across the top, and also badly leaking volume. But there is a sound canceller, which sometimes she uses when she goes to sleep, and your father has the TV on too loud. Model yours now, Griffin.
Hi, everybody. This is Griffin Cork from The Breakfast Dish. Here's your quick 3-second warning to turn down the volume of your podcast. 1 second. Hello, everybody. This is Griffin Cork. I have my face entirely in my isolation shield, and I'm bumped right up against the pop blocker of my microphone. My headphones are a simple obsidian black, but while my head is larger than 7 watermelons, the actual band of my headphones doesn't quite fit my head, so at any moment they could snap, which is really the summer 2021 look.
Oh, I can't wait to see these on the catwalk when we can all gather again.
I'm already looking at my Audacity, and I'm going to hate myself for doing what I just did.
Listen, let's introduce our guests and find out what fashion of headphones they have on, shall we?
That's good, because the only reason I had the idea for this intro is one of the guests entered into this Zoom room. So here we are, and see if you can decide which one.
Joining us from Rosebud Theatre are Morris Ertman, the artistic director, and Norma Roth, the star of For Home and Country, the production that they are presenting right now digitally, on-demand-ly. And they're both wearing amazing headphones.
I know, I love that.
Norma, would you like to describe your headphones for us?
Well, They're thin and white.
You know what? Simple is best, right? Simple is best.
Yeah, it's a very streamlined look.
Morris, you're the one that was concerned about the fashion forwardness of your headphones.
I'm not concerned. He was exuberant.
I don't know that I was exuberant, but they are cherry red, and they come out of the sides of my ears, my head, like Herman Munster's little those little things that hold Herman Munster's head on. And so I feel a little dated in them because of Herman Munster.
I didn't even make that connection, but you're right, it does.
Yeah, they kind of, it's odd, eh?
Listen, the headphones are cherry red. The headphones are mint condition. If anything's dated, it's Herman Munster.
Well, I guess so. But yeah, the reference is pretty dated. Yes, I guess it is.
I love that you know who Herman Munster is, Griffin, because I barely know because we didn't have cable growing up.
Herman Munster is on like the bare little desert precipice of my subconscious.
Hey, speaking of precipices.
Yeah, go.
No,
Go, run
I
with
don't
that.
think that really worked. Do you know there's this beautiful village called Rosebud, which is just on the precipice of the outskirts of Calgary?
Okay, sure.
Before we talk about the production, I would just love to hear the two of you, residents of Rosebud, village, town, hamlet? What is it? Hamlet, that I am so in love with. I would love to hear you two tell us about it. So, Norma, give us a bird's eye view of Rosebud for anyone who's never been there, would you?
Oh, yeah. It's a community that you can walk out, like in the play, Lorna says, I just walk outside my door to find my community. And it's totally true because I just walk outside my door.
So true. So true.
It's the community of about 100-ish. And I have far more friends here than I've ever had in any other place I've ever lived.
Oh, see? Morris, what is it about Rosebud for you that you want the world to know?
Well, it's we. There's no question about that. We as in W-E-E.
Gotcha.
But it's what I think is amazing about it is that it's not architecturally managed. It's an authentic little place. My favorite building in the whole village. I call it a village because village sounds better than Hamlet.
Face it, Morris, Hamlet.
But anyways, yeah. But the nicest building to me is this little Quonset that's just across from the hotel where we have our offices, and this little Quonset that Val Spear owns is surrounded by old Manitoba maples, and it's a Quonset. It's a metal building. And that sits beside a really elegant craftsman-style house. And it's all kind of mishmashed together in a way that means that real people live here. It's not a touristy place, and yet people utterly love coming there. And I think that's part of it, right? It's just not managed. It's kind of wild.
It's not a touristy place, but it's not meant to be one, but it's become one because it's destination theater.
Absolutely.
Because you have this gigantic following of this. How many years old is Rosebud Theatre?
The theater's about 35 years old. The theater itself, the organization is in the neighborhood of, well, it's another 5 or 10 years before then that the actual Rosebud School of the Arts, which was the start of everything, was started. And then the theater came along as a way to raise money for the school, and people wound up coming in droves.
Oh, yeah.
And the three shows a year in the early days, and 25,000 people coming to see 3 plays in a season. And it just took off.
If you put the entire population of Rosebud in your theater, they wouldn't fill the seats.
No.
And yet things sell out like mad because buses come in and people drive in from Calgary and Red Deer and my mom from Edmonton. Griffin, you were going to say something. Sorry.
What? No, wait. Go down. I like this story.
Oh.
I was going to say a dumb thing. I was going to go, Morris inspired the idea for my headphone debacle. So now I was going to go down a whole new route of Travel Alberta because that Quonset sounded nice. But I didn't want to talk about that. And it's too late now.
You're right. It's just the joke's not going to land. So I'm not going to cut this out. So you'll be embarrassed.
Yeah. So we're definitely not leaving this in.
Well,
so I can safely say that my bank pin is 4.
Norma, Are you yourself a graduate of the School of the Arts?
Yeah, I graduated in, 94 or 5, something like that. Yeah, and when I first came here, I realized that nobody sewed more than I was at the time. I thought, I could get a job here doing costumes. I didn't even come for costumes. I didn't even care about that. But I wound up having a beautiful career in both costuming and some acting. So,
Oh, brilliant.
I know.
See, son, get a second skill. Mommy says so.
Wait a minute. What's my first skill?
and get a better second skill than I've got.
Well, actually, you know what? You have acting and you can explain tech to Mummy. So I think that's a good second skill.
I don't know if I know anybody that does acting and costuming. Those feel like pretty different. That's impressive.
Yeah, when I was in university doing acting, I was doing design. And then I, expressed interest in acting, and everybody looked at me from I was from outer space. I mean, I do this all the time. Oh. Sometimes I costumed the shows I was in. Of course, that was in the early years, but
Well, it's a bunch of Renaissance people that and that's what's cool about it is that the community of artists there can roll up their sleeves and get a thing done, and then dig into a play. And it doesn't. I mean, we don't operate that way anymore as much, but that spirit certainly is alive in the place, right? And so there's not some sense that there's not a hierarchy of making in Rosebud. It's just a bunch of Renaissance people making theater,
yeah,
and teaching it and inventing it and doing all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that was brilliant.
I've got that written down. That's why I've got it. See, I write it down on a little piece of paper. Here's my crypt notes.
Script. Pull your camera down. I see it.
Yeah. No, I'm not showing you my script. And here's what's so delightful about Norma, right? Is that, of course, when I first came to Rosebud to do a show years and years ago as a freelancer, Norma was doing costumes and acting. And what's so interesting about when Norma's doing both is that she can do both. And then what's interesting about her when she designs is that she climbs inside a costume design like an actor would. Mm-hmm. And so there's a way that those things have a wonderful synchronicity, and vice versa. So there.
Well, for sure. And it's really fun, right? Because you don't have to live inside some kind of tight little space. Like maybe we could try something. Or when I was able to do a stage management for the run of the show, I was able to watch the show again and again. And that's really important from an acting point of view. And to see, how designs were working. So sometimes I'm working with Tyler, sometimes I'm working with Kelsey. Like we're on it together. And there's a beauty in that I feel is a precious thing to save. And you can't save magic either, but I just think that when we were all in it together, pitching it together and our sleeves were rolled up, we were in it together and it was precious.
And that you've instilled that. I'm going to take over the whole interview, Griffin, as usual. You don't get to talk. You've instilled that in the students because the the graduates that I have worked with that have come out of Rosebud, and it's Carl Sine and Lynette Randall who both made me go, what? Let's look more at the students of Rosebud. But they have such a non-ego. There's no egos in these students. They come out confident and ready to work and insanely talented. And as much as I tried to get my young son to go to Rosebud.
What are you doing? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What am I doing?
Oh my God! This isn't an intervention. This is an exposure.
Yes, Griffin. It's not too late. Please come.
Yeah, he would have been a better person,
Yeah.
And I had him hired before COVID came along.
Yep.
And I thought, well, we'll fix him for you. We'll fix your son.
Nip this right in the bud.
Yeah.
Wait. You had me hired before COVID too, so...
Well, I'm not sure that I was trying to fix you, Mom, but I certainly saw it in your son, and I saw that missed opportunity, and so we tried.
How titans fall. Apple from the tree, something. Listen, I still chat I had a few friends of mine who were going to go join me in this production of Chariots of Fire, and not like 2 weeks ago, we were like, oh man, remember we were going to spend the whole summer in Rosebud? Like, we still think about it.
It may still happen at some point. I don't know, Morris, may it still happen at some point? Or do you have to think over the next 3 years of something different before you can imagine bringing what was canceled back into the fold?
Well, I'm certainly thinking about it, and we're certainly considering it. It's going to be about numbers.
Yeah.
Coming out of COVID, everything is about not everything. Actually, coming out of COVID, it is actually about re-engaging our audience and bringing them, I hope, bringing them back to some of what they've experienced and the expectations that they have, and also saying we're going to go further up and further in with this whole business. I think we have to come out with a splash, because I think, well, I'll call it an explosion, because people were excited about Chariots of Fire, really excited about it. Of course, the movie has all kinds of cachet for lots of folks, and they were excited. So we're going to try and bring it back. It's just, can we make the numbers work for next season? If we can make the numbers work for next season, we'll do that, you know.
I shouldn't put you on the spot.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
It's okay to be on the spot, because we truly want to bring the show.
Yeah.
Put my boy in a show.
In this case, actually, Griffin, I seriously care more about the theater than I do if you get a job in that theater.
That happens all the time. What are you talking about in this case? Let's talk about the real show.
Norma, tell us about the show that is available from Rosebud right now, please.
Home and Country. It's about the Ontario's WI, the Women's Institute. And what is so precious to me is that it's a story about rural farm women who cook and sew and clean and raise the children. And then a young woman from Toronto inherits a farm. And this older woman named Lorna, who I play, they try to be friends. And they both need each other because they're both in situations that, you know, they've lost quite a bit. And they approach the generation gap is significant. And it's not easy for a woman from Toronto to move into a small town where Lorna wants everyone to join the WI.
And who is performing in the show with you?
3 of us are staff, are outside people. We're not students. Mike Thiessen, Sarah Robertson, and I are the outside people, and all the rest are students. So we're a cast of 11. So 11 minus 3.
There we go. 3 things: acting, costume, math.
I think I kind of failed on the math part.
Listen, I can edit that out. Slip me a cool $40 and I'll make the math sound excellent. 8. I knew it was 8 immediately.
Your plan might have been, maybe, as it was with Christmas Carol, that we might have some in-person distanced shows and some digital versions, etc. Was that the plan, or had you planned for this to be an online experience the whole time?
No, in fact, this was planned as a student production in the Opera House in a year where we knew that we'd have to cancel our actual Rosebud Theatre season, and so this became a way of getting our students out in front of people, and for us to do that economically, because of course students we don't have to pay them; they're learning. They're paying us to learn. But it really was about getting these students out in front of people, and in the hopes that we could actually do a physically distanced house, and actually have people in the theater. And of course, what happened was we couldn't even have that. And so we scrambled, unlike Christmas Carol, where we actually had some professional guys come in to actually film that show. Well, we've done this one in-house and in Rosebud with a couple of young guys that really are talented and that have filmed it. And Paul Muir has been on the switcher, switching between cameras and editing on the fly. And so, again, it's become an in-house process out of necessity. And again, what's delightful is that everybody just stepped up. And these students have been given an opportunity to do 2 weekends worth of shows for, yes, a virtual audience. And then, of course, we'll pick the best and have that on demand as well. But yeah, COVID kind of kicked this one too.
Oh, COVID kicks everything. And unfortunately, we have missed the live streamed performances of this show that happened last weekend.
That's right. And the weekend before. Yep.
But now you know you're getting the best.
Yeah. Now you're going to get Paul Muir's Switching Best. It's online on demand or at a particular time of day or night. Is it always on demand until May 29th?
May 30th, I think it is.
May 30th, great.
And it's it's on demand until then. And so you'll be able to go onto the website and grab it.
I just know that some theaters have been going, you know what, this thing, we filmed it and we're going to present it, but it's going to happen at 7:30 at night so that you still feel like that event and getting ready for it.
When we were doing it live streamed, of course, that was the case. I'm not sure if that's the case with this. And there's a part of me that goes, people will watch it when they feel like watching it, right? You know, Grandma will watch it on Sunday afternoon, after church and lunch, you know. And
we downloaded Nathan's Christmas Carol. I call it Nathan's Christmas Carol, but it was a one-man Christmas Carol, and good gosh, he was marvelous. And we watched it, I think, on a Sunday morning. And here's the story I have to tell you about this. My husband, love him. I love my husband so much. He used to be an actor, right? Years and years ago, he was an actor. He left the business 29, 30 years ago. He doesn't act anymore. And has sort of stopped even seeing a lot of theater because all of his comrades and compatriots and stuff aren't in every show anymore. Like not everything has Chris Hunt and Grant Lindenberg, and he doesn't know who the young pups are. So he's like, whatever. If Griffin's in it, I'll go, that kind of thing. But Griffin and I had this plan because he came over for brunch so that we could watch Nathan. And Kevin was standing in the kitchen getting a cup of coffee, and then he never left. So he just quietly moved closer to the kitchen table, and then he sat down, and then he watched the whole thing. And I just use him as a litmus test when it sucks my husband in so much that he wants to watch a performance. And I'm not saying he hates them. I'm just saying
when a show tricks
his brain is elsewhere now. It's in the finance world. It's not his first go-to thing is theater, but Nathan sucked him in. Well, Rosebud sucked him in.
Well, good.
I'll even go one step further because he was also doing comments of like, oh, this is what it should be. It's really simple. It's just one actor. It's just him and he's using that cloth beautifully. Like he was going in on it compliment wise. Mom's being too modest. Dad liked it.
Norma, what was the first show you ever did in Rosebud? The first one you acted in?
I acted in a show called Blackleg Minor. Lucia Frangioni wrote it, I believe. And I played a nosy, overweight telephone operator.
Yeah, wait, what did the nosy, overweight telephone operator, what was the show about, and how did they come into the story?
No, I'm lying. I'm totally lying. Let me straight. That show was Larry. I was in the show Larry. That was written by someone else, not Lucia. Blackleg Minor, I think, was the first one I saw. That's what it was. And then the first show I was in was Larry. She was so funny. She had cat-eye glasses, and she was always listening in on stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I just hoped to heavens that it was going to be okay. And then, Cam Birch, Morris,
yep.
He's a guy around town. He was totally like Mr. Funny. He was just the guy. And he came up to me after, he goes, yeah, Norma, you were funny. And I felt like I'd arrived.
I'm going to go back to Lucia for a minute because am I right that she wrote Chickens?
She did.
And you directed Chickens, Morris, yeah?
I've directed it a few times, and others have directed it in Rosebud as well because it has been a hit there.
It's a hit. So I feel like I told you this story, Morris, but I don't think I've told Griffin this story. I don't know. I'm pretty sure in the 22-year-old, like 22 years ago, if you would have directed, if I'm right about that, Royal Sproul said, oh, Karen, you should audition for the show. And I went and auditioned. Griffin, you were about 1.5, I think, maybe at the time. And I auditioned and I was successful. And you offered me the role and I chickened out leaving the kid because I just thought, what am I doing? He's a year and a half old, and I'm thinking of going to Rosebud for 6 or 7 weeks. And I turned you down, and I've never, ever stopped regretting that, because then years later, I went to see it again. I think Paul Cowling was in the one that I saw later, years ago, or years later. But I've never forgotten that beautiful monologue that the woman has in Chickens about describing her stretch marks after having babies as being oceanic in some way. I've never, ever forgotten how beautiful that speech was. Anyway, so I was thrilled when I got to start working a little bit at Rosebud, because I felt like I had shot myself in the foot, but I picked Griffin over Rosebud. That's the time I picked you over Rosebud, Griff.
Yeah, that's good. If you didn't give me all your attention, how else would I have turned into this spoiled only child?
I'm surprised that you and I didn't have a conversation, because usually when people bring up family, when I'm trying to cast them, I tell them that children will take care of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, it's good for them to have absentee parents for just a few weeks of rehearsal, 4 weeks of rehearsal. And it actually helps them in their development, because they learn a kind of independence that
Is this true, Griffin?
that Griffin clearly doesn't have now, because he's doing stuff with his mom years later.
No, wait. I abandoned him a number of times.
Out of the two, you're probably the most absentee. Absolutely. There was times that you leave for like 4 months to go to the Orlando Fringe.
Yeah, you got older when you were like 7, and I took off to Lethbridge or Prince George or Halifax or something.
Yeah.
But I have successfully abandoned my child, Morris. Yeah. I'm a good actor parent.
Well, you see, but it's those early years that count. It's those infant years that really count, and I wish we had a deeper conversation about that at the time, because he would have turned out better.
Morris would have taken a cricket bat to me, it sounds like.
No.
You would have been left to run feral with your father for that many weeks.
It always turned into all of it. Him and I at the kitchen table with various electronics plugged in, usually watching Pirates of the Caribbean for like the 12th time.
Whenever I'd abandon you?
Yeah, lots of computer games happened. Ooh, or we played that PlayStation 1 game that you didn't like us playing, Fighting Force, about the 4 tough people going through the streets of New York and beating up gang members. Yeah, I wasn't old enough to play that, but Dad didn't care. And so really, absentee mother, Fighting Force, not a good mix.
I helped you and your father bond.
Yeah, right.
Morris, you are the father of a musical designer.
Yeah, I am a composer.
A composer, yeah. Thank you. That's the word I wanted for. Let me say that again better.
Did you say
Morris,
musical?
you're the father of a composer.
I like musical designer.
Tell us about that. Tell us about your offspring, who is a
yes. Tell us about
composer.
how many times you've left them absentee.
Well, I left him a lot, actually. I left him a lot to go away and do shows, and look what happened to him.
Yeah.
But he's Luke Ertman is his name, and he's a composer and sound designer, and has done a lot of work for us in Rosebud, and he's also composed musical versions of the Passion Play, and it's just a lot of fun. I've had lots of opportunity to work with him. The very first show with him was at Pacific Theatre many years ago. We wound up hiring him to score the show, and it's really fun. I'll tell you a little story. After my parents passed away, Luke and his new bride Trina, they moved into the farmhouse, and he was working on the score for the Passion Play at the time. And I walked into the house, and he was set up in the living room. And I walked in, and this music was coming out of the speakers. It was just so evocative and amazing. Some Middle Eastern woman singing this incredible piece that he'd composed. And here's the cool thing about that. As a kid, I sat in front of the radio in that very living room and listened to symphony orchestras and Saturday afternoon at the opera and imagined stories. And then to walk in there and have that full circle, especially with the fact that my mom was a lover of music and theater and literature and everything else, it was just a wonderful sort of full circle that happened there.
Weep-worthy moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And anyway, so I'm thrilled,
It is awesome working with your kid, isn't it?
It is.
It's probably the best thing ever.
You don't like it that much because I haven't been offered a farmhouse yet, so...
No, that's true. I actually haven't also let you talk very much in this podcast because I'm just too excited to have Rosebud here. So you ask questions now. You talk.
No, I'm trying to be well behaved. I'm trying to prove Morris wrong. Oh God.
See, well...
Hey, that's okay, because I listen, I have some good tendencies, and let me jump in with them, because I did look up the details of how to get tickets to For Home and Country. And it is, as Morris said, very easy. You can just go to the Rosebud site. There's a sentence that says, click here for tickets, and here is in pink letters. You click that pink word here, and it'll bring you to the ticket buying site, and gives you all the details. But what I did miss, Morris, was the price. Do you have that?
$20, I
Boom,
believe.
Easy.
It's and when you think about $20 for a family, you sit down with your whole family and you watch the piece, and it's not a bad gig.
So we have to plan another Sunday brunch, Griff.
That's right. I hope it tricks father again this time. The machinations of mother and son.
I know we're getting close to the end, Griffin, but I want to ask Norma, what strikes you the most in this play that you're doing for Home and Country? What is your moment of yay in that play, or what? If you don't give anything away,
Well, if I start to cry, I really apologize, but here we go. I'm crying already.
I love it.
Because of the women that I know, my grandma, my mom, my sister-in-law, the people here in Rosebud, one of my friends, Brenda Schultz, she's just been a farm wife her whole life. Oh, she was a nurse. Often everybody's a nurse before they become a farm wife. And they just walk with quiet dignity, and they're so precious. They hold so much together. They bear so much in regards to family. And this idea that they're generations, right? How many generations of Roths are there in my community? How many generations of, and there's just, I was so privileged to be able to pay some kind of homage to them because they're so stable and they're so amazing and they're so understated. Nobody sees them. They don't, my mom doesn't want to be seen. She hates it when anyone makes a fuss, but I just love them, and I have walked on their shoulders, and I love them, and I get a chance to play one of them, and I'm just so grateful.
That is so lovely. Beautiful. You remind me of, you can cut this out if you want to, but Morris would know, and I don't know if you know Dorothy Ann Haig.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I first met you, Karen.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Right.
You really, right now, are striking me very the same energy and the same spirit and the same warmth of Dorothy Ann Haig. Anyway, so that
Why
was
did
just
she
a
have to
side
move
note.
so far away?
Oh, I know.
Oh, and I was also going to say one more thing, that it's so, this play, so I have this rich history, about living on a farm, working with women, this whole thing. And the generation gap that doesn't, and it's so interesting because everyone's perspective is so precious, but that's hard for young people to understand. Like the character of Judy in this play, she calls us irrelevant and mind-bogglingly, ineffective. And her perspective is so important too, because the women that I'm representing don't understand what she's on about. And this is how it goes. If we don't find our way to bridge these gaps, then we pull apart as opposed to continue to grow. And you have to accept a new thing, right? At one point, Judy makes suggestions how they can improve the WI, and all the old girls are like, whoa, no. And so this whole thing of how we, as an older generation, how we have to respect and be open to new ideas that come to us from our children that we don't like. And, we both have to grow.
I love that. I because Because another person might have said, yeah, there's a character who just doesn't appreciate the older generation. And I love that you shared that we have to remember the older generation was pushing away or can push away the younger generation sometimes.
Yep.
That it is the two-way street.
My brother farms with my nephew. My nephew is raising the 4th generation on our farm. It's very exciting. And they've just, my brother's retiring. My nephew and his wife are building their career, and they've just built this massive computerized milking barn for dairy cows. And, my brother has had to just say, whatever you want to do, Wes, whatever you want to do. And his colleagues are saying, how can you do that? Why are you letting him have so much power? And my brother's like, well, it's his debt. It's his career. It's his generation. I've done my thing. And he's so right. And he's so brave. And he's going to have his own cost in that, because it's not his generation anymore. To see the world shift into, you don't own it anymore. The next generation owns it. And you're just like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how to do the technology, blah, 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 blah. It takes grace for us all.
And there's a pride in the older generation of how hard we worked milking the cows or whatever. I'm not a farm person, but the stuff that we did manually, that pride, and then seeing somebody come in and go, oh, I'm just going to get the computer to do it. And yet that's a really wise business decision when I can get the computer to do it and work on some other things. Why mow the lawn with scissors when the lawnmower has been invented? That was a great analogy, Karen.
It's awesome. I will save it forever.
We do miss the scissor era. Those are some tough years.
And just how, as a community or as a family, you make your choices to live together in peace and love, or you fight. And, it starts with us, right? Like, how can I affect anybody out there if I can't have peace within my own heart and with my own community?
I could pretty much listen to you talk for about 9 years.
Well, it's too bad, because I'm going to do what my generation does and interrupt and say that the breakfast dish is a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Sorry, everybody. I love my generation.
I love them too.
The intro music you just heard and the intro music you're about here is by Alexandra Cowman.
Rosebud grad.
Rosebud.
Yes.
And the graphic design for the breakfast dish has been done by Morgan Ermter. Karen, what else is coming up?
I want to tell you that you can still go to the Vertigo Theatre website, and until the 31st of May, you can still listen to their 3 radio plays. So when Stay Away From Each Other Time started, they switched to an audio format along with help from 6 Degrees. So there's 3 different plays, radio plays. One is called Voice on the Wire. One is called The Hitchhiker, the American. And the other is called Incendiary, an Asha Ray serial. I just was going to say that Michaela Jeffrey wrote that one. You can go to the Vertigo website and you can download these if you want to listen to a nice oldie-fashioned sitting by the radio, like Morris was talking about, radio play in the mystery genre. They range in price for the download from about $10 to $16 each. However, you can download a package of all 3 of them for just $37. That's just something else you can do.
Thank you for doing that work, Karen. I really appreciate the work that your generation has done so that me and Morris, the young bucks here, can just hold the headphones and be vloggers and gamers. Norma, Morris, thank you very much for joining us on The Breakfast Dish.
Yeah, thank you. It's great.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks.
Before we let you go, there is one thing we like to do to end The Breakfast Dish. Karen, who is a professional improviser, usually thinks up a question that has often something to do with what we talked about, but not often. It may have breakfast themes, but also not often. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Norma, on the farm, what was the number one breakfast that people would serve when you were growing up?
Eggs and bacon. Over
Eggs
easy.
And bacon.
Classic.
Over easy. Morris, if your son was going to compose a musical about breakfast, what's the title?
Breakfast fantasy.
Breakfast fantasy.
All right, Karen, we've never done this, but can I ask one question?
Yes, you can.
Morris, what's your sign off for your gaming channel?
Oh, my gaming channel. I don't even know what a sign off is.
So you do your activities, you play the game, you review it, whatever, and then you go, hey, thanks everybody for watching. Like and subscribe, but don't do mine. Do yours.
Thanks everybody for watching. Story time with buttons. I don't know.
Absolutely perfect. End episode. Stop it. End.
You have to cut out my cackle there, Griffin. Story time with buttons.
No, there's no way. It's all going in. We're out. This episode of The Breakfast Dish is brought to you by RUMI, like a roommate, Mom.
I wish you were still my roomie.
Cold drafts?
Yep.
Flickering lights? And
yes.
Where's that leak coming from?
Me forgetting to turn the sink off.
I see. If you ever wonder what's really going on in your home, like it sounds like Karen might be, RUMI's Ask a Home Inspector service can help. You have to call. You have to call. It really sounds like I'm really worried about you. Connect with a certified professional home inspector by phone or video call and get your question answers video call.
Thank you so much. It's a new normal.
RUMI will let you know what's easily fixable with a little DIY, or when you might need to call in some professional help.
Like me.
Visit RUMI.ca. That's RUMI, RUMI.ca, and book your Ask a Home Inspector appointment today.
Something's on fire.
What?
This has been The Breakfast Dish.